Everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sitting in for Chair Hernandez, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Rules Policy Industrial Relations Committee of September 27, 2024. Before we begin, please note this meeting is being recorded. Welcome to my colleagues and everyone joining us in person, as well as those listening on the phone. If you'd like to provide public comment in today's meeting and you have not done so already, please let Thomas in the back of the room or Justine on the call line know what items you'd like to speak on today. Madam Secretary, would you please begin by calling the roll?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Starting with Director Conroy.
Present.
Garbarino.
Present.
Rosebowl.
Present.
Hill.
Present.
Parr.
Present.
Here.
Here.
Vice Chair Moulton Peters.
Here.
Chair Hernandez is absent. And President Cochran.
There.
All right, thank you. You have a quorum at your committee of the whole.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll move on now to item number 3, which is to approve changes to the district's diversity program for contracts and submittal of the revised program to the U.S. Department of Transportation. Our manager of diversity, DBE, and workforce inclusion, Ardith Davenport, is here to present the report. Emma, can you please begin your report? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, President Cochran and Vice Chair Moulton Peters and the rest of the board members and district staff. My name is Artemis A. Davenport. I am the manager of DBE and Workforce Inclusion, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be before you this morning to make a couple of recommendations. First, starting with the changes to the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District's Diversity Program for Contracts, which is our DBE and our small business program, as well as authorize submittal of the revised document to U.S. Department of Transportation by October 9th. So the DBE rules actually have been established back in 1980. And so US DOT does recognize that this program over 40 years needed to be updated and modernized in what they call for this notice to propose rulemaking that happened back in July 2021 or 2022, July 21st of 2022, that this has been the most significant changes to the program in its history. And so with that, there was the notice to propose rulemaking from the Biden-Harris administration and US DOT. And it looked at the program. There's actually 5 pillars that they looked at, or 5 pillars that are driving these changes, which is certification standards and eligibility, setting goals and solicitation and selection of DBE and ACDBE firms, monitoring prompt payment and oversight of DBE and ACDBE participation, as well as data collection for submittal to US DOT. So with that, again, the objectives of this notice to propose rule changing is to modernize the program, to reduce burdens on firms and recipients, to grow capacity of DBE firms being able to enter into the program, and increase that owner's wealth, as well as improve the integrity of the program. So on April 9th, these changes, or excuse me, the final rule was announced, and there has been instructions and guidance for recipients to update their program. So the rule became effective on May 9th, and all of these changes needed to be implemented. And now your program has to be submitted by October 9th. So with that, district staff did use some of the guidance that has been provided, which is a list of new rule timelines, training sessions, webinars that have been held, as well as a implementation guide to help update the program. So again, there are those 5 pillars that I mentioned earlier. I'm only going to talk about the changes that affect the district and its program. And so let me start with this tiered program approach that that FTA or USDOT is proposing. So before the final rule, recipients that received $250,000 in capital planning or operating expenses were required to have a DBE program. So now there's this tiered approach so that USDOT captures everyone, every recipient. So those exceeding $670,000 in a federal fiscal year are going to be considered Tier 1 recipients, and they must implement the full program of Part 26. The Tier 2 recipients that are going to receive less than $670,000 in capital planning or operating expenses, they are going to be required to only meet certain 5 areas of the program. And those include the reporting and record keeping rule or provision under 2611, contract assurance under 2613, the policy statement and dissemination, which is under 2623. The small business program, this was introduced to ACDBE recipients. They did not have a small business program. Now they're required to have one, as well as the TBM procurement provisions under 2649. So that's all they're expected to do. They don't have to set goals. They just have to comply with those 5 areas of the program. So for the district over the past several years, or actually our goal setting is every 3 years, so far probably for the past 9 years or so, we have exceeded, we usually receive to 23 million, I think was the last for this current goal that we're in. And previous to that, it was like 42 million. So we will be assessing every year to see which tier program we fall under. Most likely we're always going to be a Tier 1. The bidders list collection, data collection, this is something that has always been in the regulations. However, there's additional reporting requirements that we're now responsible for collecting for our bidders, anyone that's interested in doing business with the district as a prime or a sub. So prior, it was only firm name, the firm name, the firm business, the DBE status, either you're DBE or non-DBE, the age of the firm, and the annual gross receipts. So now we are required to capture race and gender information, the zip code for where these firms are located, the applicable NAICS code, the North American Industry Classification System, which is the NAICS code of the business, whatever work that your business performs in, those are NAICS codes. So, and also, yeah, those are the new added areas. So with that, USDOT took the approach that they'd have a better understanding of who is actually being awarded the contracts, the name of the DBEs, how much that they are being awarded, or if they're become decertified. So they're just interested in getting a holistic view of, is the program working, and who is actually winning the bids or, you know, being decertified. And so it's just better to make improvements and possible policy changes with this data collection. With that, the intent is you're able to set goals based on your bidders list. The district has never taken this approach. We've always used the U.S. Census database versus the number of DBEs in our local market area. So now USDOT is introducing a decentralized, or excuse me, a centralized database for the bidders list. So eventually, when enough information is entered into the system, recipients could start using the centralized database to set their overall goals. So with that, the district has updated its forms to collect the added information. And again, this goes for every prime or subcontractor, anyone interested in doing business with the district. Monitoring oversight requirements, so that the rules also strengthen this monitoring. So recipients are required to really monitor prompt payment to the DBEs, as well as oversight to making sure that DBEs are performing the work that had assumed to be subcontracted out to them. The district does utilize its diversity program, or excuse me, our Diversity Compliance Management System, known as DCMS. This keeps a running tally of every DBE that has been paid, whether they're being paid on time, promptly. If there's any issues or discrepancies, the DBEs do have the ability to notify the owner, which would be the district, the agency, of if there's any prompt payment issues or any discrepancies or issues that need to be resolved privately with the agency. So that's how we're keeping our running tally. We're monitoring utilizing our system. In addition to, we're also requiring our primes now to do their commercially useful function reviews for their DBEs, as well as district staff will also be doing the commercially useful function reviews to make sure that DBEs are performing the work and not just a matter of a pass-through, if you will. So that's pretty much it for that section. Moving on to the prompt payment and return of retainage. In the federal regulations, you did have 30 days for prompt payment. Now the new rule allows for, if your state has laws that are shorter terms for prompt payment, you may implement, or your state rule will prevail. So the district has pretty much always utilized for construction contracts. The prime is required to pay its sub within 7 days for construction. And then with professional services, we are allowing 15 days for that prompt payment. And so we have this language in our contract solicitation documents. And so we've there's really not too much change there. There is some language that we have added that contractors shall include language to their subcontracts that do stipulate that contractors and subcontractors will use appropriate alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to resolve payment disputes and withholding reimbursement for work performed by the subcontractors unless the contractor ensures that the subcontractors are promptly paid for satisfactory completed work. So that's new language that will be added into our solicitation documents. With transit vehicle manufacturers, back in 2014, that was the last modifications. And with those modifications, the definition of a transit vehicle manufacturer included ferry vessels. And this became very difficult for the district because we do procure ferry vessels. However, under the TVM rule, all transit vehicle manufacturers had to have a DBE program approved by FTA. And it had to comply with all of the rules of Part 26. There are no shipyards that have a DBE program. So the workaround for this was to create or to establish a project goal. And as we know, as the goal right now, overall goal for the district is 1.4%, which is very low, is because it's surrounded by maritime contracts. So we know that there are very limited DBEs that exist in the marine industry. So with that, doing a project goal, that is the workaround to complying with the TVM rule. So with the new rule, USDOT does recognize that this TVM requirement is not a one-size-fits-all and that there had to be some adjustments made. So they did improve or clarify the definition of a transit vehicle manufacturer and for what a transit dealer would be, as well as provide recipients the opportunity to not wait. So in order to do a project goal, you had to do the whole goal setting, submit it to FTA, get approval before you could even advertise a solicitation. So now USDOT has made it to whereas we just need approval to establish a goal, not necessarily have to wait for it to be approved, but just get the approval that this is what we're going to do if we have to procure ferry vessels. So with that helped us out, even though it's still a lot of work to create a goal on a ferry vessel procurement. So moving on to the DBE Open-Ended Performance Plan for Design Build Contracts. I don't believe we do design build contracts. So with a design build, your prime is not going to know the DBEs, the name of the DBEs up front, because they don't even know what the work might be. And so with this open-ended DBE plan, it's pretty much a live document throughout the life of the contract. So as the primes have to commit to utilizing DBEs, once they identify what those subcontracting opportunities are, then they would submit their plan to the district for approval. And then that's how we are able to track the DBE participation or encourage or require the primes to make good faith efforts into finding DBEs to work on this design build contract. So we do design bid build. So we're either doing a contract, a small business goal on the design phase, and then doing another small business goal on the construction phase. So with that, that might not apply to us, but in the event that we do have a design build, it is now put in our program what the requirements of the prime is going to be. Moving on to the new distributor definition, this is something new to count DBE drop shipments or DBE distributor participation, so which is different from a DBE manufacturer. So now we'll be able to count up to 40% for DBE like drop ships, but there is a DBE let me read my notes. It is called a DBE Regular Dealer Distributor Affirmation Form. And so with that, we've included this form with our prime contractor and subcontractor form. So the primes or the DBE distributors will have to complete this form and submit that with their bid in order to accurately count that credit. Moving on to the business size determination. So DBEs that to become a certified DBE, you have to qualify as a small business under the definition of what the Small Business Administration considers to be a small business in each applicable North American Industry Classification Code. And so with that, the average annual gross receipts, and there's actually, I made a mistake, there's a typo here. It's not an average of 3 years, but it has extended to an average of 5 years. You cannot exceed 30.72 million. And so with that, to be eligible or to be considered as a DBE under the program, your size standard cannot exceed that in any applicable NAICS code. So USDOT will adjust this amount annually and will post this update on its website, which is something new because it does take a while for that adjustment to be made. So they're going to be looking at this on an annual basis. And we do have this language in our solicitation, so we will be updating it accordingly. Moving on to in the increase in personal net worth. So this personal net worth has not been updated in the past 13 years, which the calculations are based on the consumer price index, which they figure is not, accurate, which is or doesn't really reflect what your personal net worth. And so prior it was 1.32 million to be eligible under the DBE program. Now it has increased to 2.047 million. And this cap will be adjusted now every 3 years. And so there's a new methodology. USDOT is going to use the Federal Reserve financial accounts of household data sets to make this adjustment now. And so hopefully, we hear a lot of complaints, well, that's too small, especially in California, the cost of living and just to be able to make it. So that's a good thing, a plus for us. Yes, so prior, your personal net worth, so it's an eligibility requirement to be able to be entered into the DBE program. It was 1.32 million. So now, and it was based on the consumer price index. That's where they based this figure off of. So now the personal net worth cap has increased to 2.047 million. So yes, so the personal net worth cap is every 3 years, they're from the anniversary of the implementation of the final rule, which is on May 9th. So every 3 years, they're going to look at this and then they're going, hopefully we want to adjust. We would have a big problem if it was,
Okay.
it wasn't just down.
Thank you.
Probably another notice to propose rulemaking with that. And so the district will update its standard contract language because we do put that personal net worth in our solicitation documents as well. Moving on to counting DBE participation after decertification. So I know prior you could still count DBE participation if the firm had become decertified, depending on the reasons why. So now you can count that DBE participation if your DBE maybe they exceeded the size standard and kind of graduated from the program. You can still count that towards the contract goal, but the district wouldn't be able to count it towards our overall goal. Now, if a DBE became decertified because it was acquired by a non-DBE firm or, a merger, then you would not be able, you have to stop counting, even on the contract, and it would not apply to the district's overall goal. And so that counting information has also, I'm going to go very quickly through the program and just tell you what sections I have updated rather than give you a 100-page document with a whole bunch of red lines. I'll just quickly summarize that part for you. And then, so those are really the changes that affect the district's program. There again has been other changes like certification. I do want to mention that interstate, I don't have that in this report for you, but interstate certification has become a little bit easier now. So now it takes 10 days if a DBE firm, say, is certified in Washington State and they want to do business in California. They just have to submit it's a justification of certification, I believe, or jurisdiction of certification. They have to provide that to their original certifying agency. And then that gets sent over to the state that they want to do business in. And they have 10 days. The other state has 10 days to certify them. So interstate certification has become very easy now. So that is a wonderful addition to the rules. So with that, the last changes that we did have some language added to Exhibit A, which is the diversity program in the diversity program for contracts that outlines the responsibilities of my position. And it does clarify that the manager of DBE and workforce inclusion can make regular updates such as administrative or clarifying revisions that aren't significant, that would require FTA approval or board approval. So it's just slight changes to the program. And so with that, there is no direct fiscal impact associated with the changes to the district's DBE and SBE program, just a lot of additional work. And so I do want to take the time to thank our procurement department and our engineering department and our ferry department and all the staff that help, and our attorneys that helped update the district's program. It does take a village and a team to do this work. So I'm very grateful for that. So very quickly, if you have the DBE program in your packet, I won't spend a lot of time. I just want to highlight again, rather than give you a red line document. We updated our policy. So thank you, President Cochran, for signing that. We've updated our policy. It just has a couple word changes and clarifying that you could look at the district's program by visiting the office, just slight changes, nothing major there. As we go through the definitions, some commonly used definitions, we have the tier 1, tier 2, some other, the personal net worth, recipient. There's some other definitions that I didn't previously have in here that I felt that were important. So there's some updates there. The responsibility for the DBE program implementation, there is a couple changes there for the duties, again, of the disadvantaged business enterprise liaison officer, which is the DBELO. which is myself. And flipping through the monitoring actual DBE participation, that's on page 12. Some language has been included there. We included the open-ended DBE performance plan again for design build contracts. That's item H on page 13. And then flipping on through to page 23, or excuse me, page 22, the counting and tracking of DBE participation. So, and the DBE regular dealer distributor affirmation form is mentioned there, as well as if you become decertified, so no one's shocked that, you know, their participation isn't counting if they are acquired by a non-DBE. Termination and replacement of subcontractors, subconsultants, and suppliers. This was not previously in our program. It is in our solicitation documents, but I felt it was important so folks would see what that process is for terminating or replacing DBE firms. So that's new. And then on page 26, that prompt payment clause. There's that language there has been included. And then on page 29, previously I did not have the website. If a firm was interested in becoming DBE certified, I've now included that in because the district does not do certification, but we point those that are reading our program that there's the link there to get more information about that. And then in section A on page 29, the bidders list, the additional information, the race and gender, NAICS codes, and the zip code. And I believe that's it, other than on page 33, that exhibit A, the duties of the manager of DBE and workforce inclusion responsibilities. That last bullet, number 22, allows the DBLO to make certain changes, clarifying revisions to the program. And I believe that's it. That's all I have. Is there, oh, I'm sorry. There is one other on page 36. We put in the size standard that 30.72 million is in the small business area. Now that is it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Yes, are there any questions for Tima about this? Yes, please,
Not
Director.
a question, just a comment. This was very comprehensive. Thank you. I don't know, it would have been good to get the 100 pages with the red line. So
I can send it to you.
we can talk, but I feel as though you've covered all the important points. I think for me, in seeing this document and reviewing it, it's Herculean what you've gone through, not only to keep it going before all the changes, but to implement all of the changes and for the contractors as well. So for that, my comment is the data collection, which was mentioned several times, is so important to really make the program effective. Anybody can be impressed by a stack of paper, but
Yes,
this is the rubber hitting the road.
exactly. Yes, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah, very interesting reading, and thank you very much. It's very comprehensive. I do have a couple of questions that I think have sort of already been answered. The first is, do the changes create any significant difficulties for us?
They don't, but the data collection, so with the bidders list, you are to submit this information with your bid. However, if the form is submitted with the bid, we can request for additional information. If some of the information isn't completely filled out, that's probably the most area that I would have a challenge in, is collecting that information, because it does ask for race and gender and a little bit more personal information. And again, with everything going on with affirmative action, maybe someone does not want to put their race or gender. So that's where I would have a little bit of a challenge. So far, I don't think we have, you know what, we did just have a solicitation, a bid opening a few days ago that has that form, and I haven't reviewed it yet, but that's the first solicitation or submittal that we have. So I don't know what I'm gonna see when I open it, evaluate it, but I think that probably would be the most area.
And then along those lines, I guess, is there any sense that these changes might encourage or discourage potential DBEs from participating?
I hope it encourages, excuse me, because now more firms, the new rules have made it a little bit easier for firms to actually enter into the program. So we hope that more small businesses will consider DBE certification, especially with that interstate certification. Maybe they'll be interested in doing business, around the country. So I hopefully, we'll see. All this is new, so we're still learning.
That would be good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Director Seer.
So Tina, I just want to take a second to thank you for all your work.
Well,
This, anytime there's a rule change, it requires that we look at our entire program and look at every single word. So what we're getting today is that synopsis, but I know how much work you and your staff and the district has had to do behind the scenes to get us to this point.
Correct.
Some of the changes I think are great. Some of the caps have been too low
Mhm.
for businesses, especially businesses in a large metropolitan area,
Right.
to be able to work in the program. I also wanted to say that, the program at this district is really a model, and it's a model for other government agencies. And I want to thank you for your work and our director and staff for helping to make us have such a great DBE and SBE program where smaller companies, local companies, and disadvantaged business enterprises are actually allowed to compete on some of the most major projects and exciting projects that we will see in our lifetime.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Vice Chair Hill.
Tina, this is beautiful, very complex and followable. I would like to ask with this, you think, I think that these areas it's underlined. If we could do like we do with our engineering reports, it's underlined or highlighted in a way so it's easier to track when we're trying to follow it.
Sure.
We're-
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I can do that. Instead of the red line, I can highlight the clean version and just highlight the sections that I've changed.
I think that's in the report talking about the differences. It makes it easier to see.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I agree. Correct.
Other questions? I had one last one, Tima, and
Yes.
that is, with all the work you've done, will we be expecting to hear from you maybe once a year on how we're doing with the DBs?
Yes, I usually do a annual update and the progress of the DBE program. And usually I'm supposed to do this in January, but it's been like March because it's just been so much, going on. So hopefully I can get that to you earlier, and shoot for either maybe February and have that for you. But I do an annual update. Are you wanting more?
No,
Okay.
just curious, still learning the
Okay,
ropes.
good.
So thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments, I'm gonna ask the clerk if there's any public comment on this item.
We have no public comment on this item.
Okay, well then I am looking for a motion to adopt the district's.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Director Hill, a second by, is that you, Catherine? Or you, Holly, Director
I think
Seer?
it was me, but
Okay, Director
someone else
Seer.
wants it. Go ahead.
Jim.
Okay, good. You guys are clear. All right, so motion by Hill, second by Maston. All in favor? Any opposition? Great, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you,
for all your
Tima.
work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
All right, we'll move now to item number 4. And Secretary, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak or address the committee?
We have no speakers for this rules committee.
Okay, very good. In that case, that concludes our business. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No, of course not. Thank you. We are adjourned.